I've been a search and rescue volunteer for 15 years. I've found lost hikers, rescued injured climbers, and recovered those who didn't make it. But this case was different. This case showed me that some people don't just go missing. They're taken. David was a local journalist investigating cold cases who had spent years chasing stories that others dismissed as superstition. On June 4, 2006, he arrived at a remote cabin in the Appalachian Mountains. He had heard the whispers, the legends that locals spoke of in hushed tones after dark. He didn't believe them. Not at first. But he was about to learn that some stories are rooted in truth far darker than fiction. The place was exactly as described in the old reports. Dense forest, isolation, no cell service for miles. The air felt wrong somehow, heavy with a silence that seemed almost deliberate. David had investigated dozens of supposedly haunted locations before. Every single one had a rational explanation. Every single one, until now. He took out his equipment and began documenting everything. The temperature readings. The electromagnetic fields. The ambient sounds. What he captured that day would haunt him for the rest of his life. It started with small things. Things that could almost be dismissed as coincidence. A sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. A shadow that moved just at the edge of his vision. A feeling of being watched, studied, catalogued. David tried to rationalize it. Old buildings settle. Pipes creak. Light plays tricks. But deep down, he knew. This was different. This was intelligent. He found the records later. Documents that had been carefully hidden, almost as if someone wanted them forgotten. The history of a remote cabin was stained with incidents going back decades. Visitors who experienced the same phenomena. Some left shaken. Some left changed. Some never left at all. The pattern was unmistakable once you knew what to look for. And David was starting to see the pattern clearly. The sound came first. A noise that shouldn't exist, like reality itself, was tearing at the seams. David turned toward the source, and that's when he saw the smiling woman. An impossibly wide smile, crawls on ceilings and walls. Time seemed to stop. Appears at 3 a.m. He tried to run, but his legs wouldn't obey. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. All he could do was watch as the thing that would destroy his life moved closer. What followed was 3 days of absolute terror. The smiling woman didn't just appear once. It kept coming back. Each encounter more intense than the last. Appears at 3 a.m. Scratches from above. Smiles wider when seen. David tried everything to escape. He barricaded his doors and windows. He covered every reflective surface. He tried to drive away, but he always found his way back to a remote cabin, as if the place itself refused to let him leave. He researched everything he could find about the smiling woman. The origins. Said to be the vengeful spirit of a woman wronged in the 1920s. The patterns of behavior. The methods of survival. He learned about the mirrors confuse her, and he clung to that knowledge like a lifeline. But knowing a weakness isn't the same as being able to exploit it. Especially when you're running on no sleep, when every shadow makes you jump, when you can't trust your own senses anymore. On the third night, it came for him directly. No more games. No more waiting. The final confrontation. An impossibly wide smile, crawls on ceilings and walls stood before him, and he understood then that some things don't hunt for food or territory. They hunt because they enjoy it. Because they've been doing it for centuries, and they have all the time in the world. David made a choice in that moment. A choice between survival and humanity. A choice that he would have to live with for the rest of his life. The sun rose on the fourth day to find David stumbling out of a remote cabin, barely conscious, clutching the one thing that had kept him alive. He had discovered it by accident, in the desperate final hours of that third night. The one thing that could keep the smiling woman at bay. But he also discovered that he couldn't destroy it. No one could. Some things are too old, too powerful, too fundamentally wrong to be killed. David escaped, but he didn't leave unchanged. The doctors called it trauma. PTSD. Hallucinations brought on by extreme stress. They prescribed medication and therapy. They wrote papers about his case. But David knew the truth. The smiling woman was still out there. Still waiting. Still watching. Speaks in riddles. The bond had been formed in those 3 days of terror, and bonds like that don't break easily. It's been years now. David moved to a different state, changed his name, tried to build a new life. But he still sees the smiling woman in every shadow. In every mirror. In every moment of darkness. The doctors say it's a manifestation of trauma. But David knows better. Because sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and still, he can hear the smiling woman whispering. Calling his name. And he knows, with absolute certainty, that the smiling woman is coming back to finish what it started. The official report remains sealed. But some truths can't stay buried forever. I don't know if sharing this will make a difference. I don't know if anyone can stop what's coming. But you deserve to know. Be careful what you investigate. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed.